Um,
Okay.
Welcome to the Excessive Chatter Podcast, the show where I, your host Zericc, gets to know our guest over a friendly round of chess. Guests include Twitch streamers, video game speedrunners, chess players, and others. This is episode 3 of the show. If you're interested in seeing more of Excessive Chatter, you can follow and subscribe at twitch.tv/Zericc or find episodes at Zericc on YouTube. This episode, our guest is MarshmlloDragon. MarshmlloDragon, or Dani, is a retro games and variety streamer on Twitch. Dani, thank you for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
I'm going to start us off with our first round of chess here. While I'm doing that, would you like to share a bit of background about who you are as a streamer?
Yeah. So as Zericc said, I am a variety streamer. I do have an emphasis on retro games as well, though I haven't been playing as many of them recently. But I've also started getting into challenge runs. So right now I'm doing a Pokemon Shield challenge run, as well as playing Fire Emblem on Mondays. And yeah, I mean, I stream 4 days a week. So I do Monday night, Saturday night, Thursday during the daytime because I had a lot of viewers overseas that couldn't really catch me at late at night. And then I do a cooperative stream on Fridays called Friendship Friday. So yeah, it's a good time and we just kind of chill and have fun. And my stream isn't anything like super glamorous, but I like to think that we just have a lot of fun and it's chill. So yeah, that's about all I have to say.
Okay. I have sent you a game request. There we go. So we'll get started here. And
Awesome.
I'd like to chat about your approach to streaming a little bit. You've covered you mentioned a few things there that I actually made a note of. And
Okay.
I've caught your stream many times, and from my perspective, you do a lot of things to make it feel like sort of a friendly hangout. And you describe the stream in your like about and descriptions as a campfire to gather around. So, what are your thoughts on your approach to streaming overall?
I think that I'm pretty proud of what I've done because my biggest thing is I can't really lie. I can't really pretend to be something that I'm not. So, some days I feel really energetic. Other days I feel really kind of down. And I think it's important to just be authentic as a person. And so I think my ideal space for streaming would be um, a relaxed atmosphere where people can kind of just be themselves and have fun. So, yeah, that's really the long and short of it is just I started my channel because I wanted to share games that I loved growing up. And I still get to do that. And I still get to share games that are new to me as well. But yeah, I just want to maintain like a safe space and a fun space for people. So,
Okay. I have a couple sort of thoughts and questions about your stream that aren't in any particular order off the top of the bat here. And one of them, because I think it's fairly unique. You know, some people when they choose their handle on Twitch or online, it's something that they've always used, or it's something that connects to their name or something. How did you land on MarshmlloDragon of all things?
um, I'm actually really terrible at coming up with usernames for things. It genuinely came out of just thinking, "Oh, that's kinda cute. Let's go with that." So, I like marshmallows and I like dragons, so there we go.
Fair enough. Um,
So,
and you mentioned
yes.
recently that you might change this, but I did want to ask you. The part of your tagline, I guess, on Twitch is "You're America's favorite low quality stream," which I find fairly endearing. But how did you come up with that?
Yeah, so the tagline came about, uh, 3 or 4 months, maybe a little bit longer after I started streaming, but I live in a place with horrible internet, and I'm also running off of very minimal hardware, so I don't really have any fancy bells or whistles or anything, and at the time, things just didn't go super smooth, but people still watched, people still hung out, and so it's more of kind of a cheeky, like, title that came about because, we just couldn't have nice things on the stream. So, um Yeah, for a long while there, the streams were looking pretty rough, and I was just kind of doing my best to mitigate the problems with the tech stuff as best as possible. But a lot of my humor is also very sarcastic, so I think it just kind of came about as just like, yeah, I'm America's favorite low quality streamer. Don't worry about it. Like, don't think about it too hard, you know?
Fair enough. Fair enough. I had a
So
problem.
I am thinking about changing it because somehow the tech issues, knock on wood, have kind of figured themselves out. So I'm looking for names if anybody has ideas. I hope they're just as snarky as the one I currently have, though.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I had a problem at the when I started streaming where I bought the mic I'm using right now, but it's a directional mic, and because I had no experience with any of this, I thought it was broken because I was just using it like pointed the wrong direction. So
Oops.
I feel like for a lot of streamers that they're going to they appreciate that tag. Um, I have a bunch of questions for you. Some things I've done a bit of research before this, and you and I have chatted a bit beforehand. I do want to let folks know, because there's a bunch of newer folks that if they have questions, if they want to chat with us or respond to the things that we're saying on the stream, they're perfectly welcome to do that in chat as well, and we can incorporate that as we go. So you mentioned a little bit about the games that you play on stream, and those are a lot of times games from your childhood. How do you choose?
Mhm.
How do you choose? Are they all just games you played growing up, and that you want to share them now, or how do you choose the games you play?
Um, it's a mix of both. I think when I first started streaming, there was a big emphasis on choosing games that I really, really loved and wanted to share. And that has definitely shifted in the last year or so, only because I recognized like there was a lot of games that I had never tried that I wanted to play. There was a lot of I kind of expanded my options and opened my horizons to other games that I hadn't considered before. And you can only play so many games, and sometimes you're not in the mood to play certain games, and so that's kind of where I'm at with that. Um, sorry, one second.
It's okay.
So yeah, I don't know. I'm usually down to try anything as long as I have the means to play it or stream it. So
Okay. I've instigated our first question for today, which is, when are you going to learn the Startropic speedrun? I think that
hi Sid.
yeah, certainly an hour-long, fairly complicated speedrun is one place to start. I don't know. Have you ever speedrun a game on stream, or?
So actually, I have been considering my very first speedrun, which I think will probably be Breath of the Wild,
Wow.
because
Okay.
I'm fairly confident I can do it. Um, it's mostly because you just have to get through the Great Plateau, and then from there, you just have to get the weapons that you can to beat all of the Ganon blights inside of the castle. So I'm kind of considering doing that first. I would be super down to do a Star Tropic speedrun. I don't think I'd be super great at it, but speedruns to me, not being a super competitive gamer, is just personal best times. So I would certainly be down. I miss playing Star Tropics a lot, so I would definitely be into that for sure.
Well, you would make a very small community of very passionate fans really happy, I think, if you tried that. But it's cool. It's
I'm
cool.
not gonna lie, the people that I met from Star Tropics, yourself included, I think you started following me because of Star Tropics.
Yep.
I still talk to a great many of the people in the community, and I was so surprised that there was such a demand and such a community for Star Tropics. I just think that that's so delightful. And yeah, I'd be down to play more Star Tropics for sure.
Well, personally, that makes me very happy to hear. It's sort of the Startropics people here are chatting in the chat even more now. But it is a bit of an aside from discussing your stream and all that kind of thing. But it is a community that does strive to try and be as friendly as possible, because I think the folks love the show or love the game so much, but also because it's small and it helps it grow and that sort of thing. Also, I will say there's a lot of Canadians who speedrun that game, and so perhaps that has an impact on it as well.
I wonder, because I didn't see that game when I was a kid. I don't know if it was just availability or what, but I definitely would have played it more had I seen it when I was younger, for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so just continuing on here with some of the things I had, some of the notes I'd made before the stream. One of the things I'm very impressed by with your stream is your Friends Fridays. So these are Fridays where you play for several hours with your friends on stream, and it's really consistent. I find that fascinating on the level that you're able to organize all of these people to play games together for so long every Friday, and it's really fun to watch. Can you speak to all of that, like how it came to be, how you keep it going, how you pick games that everyone enjoys playing together, all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Friendship Friday was born from myself and another streamer called the Rastifer, and it's kind of funny because I met the Rastifer through another mutual friend. I would consider him like my first real big streaming friend, and his name is Drufus. His handle is Drufus, anyway. And I met Rastifer, and I was like, "Oh, this guy, like he he seems like he has something to prove. Like he's kind of got to stick up his butt." And then after a few months, we became really, really good friends. And we just like decided we wanted to do some co-op games together. And so it started off as just me and Ras and Drew, and sometimes three to a screen. And that group has kind of shifted. Now the core of the group is basically me, the Rastifer, Latalis Rose, and three to a screen. Sometimes we have all of those people, sometimes we have different people come in, but the core of the group is the same basically every time. And so that means that we have consistency, and generally I kind of let the others pick the games that they want to play, just because I have 3 other days a week that I get to choose what I want to play, so I'm always curious to see, like, what kinds of games they want to play. Um, so, I definitely do enjoy, Friendship Friday. It helps that we're on a schedule, for sure, so if you wanna do co-oping anything, make sure you have a schedule for it. But yeah, some of the games we've played I've absolutely loved, other ones I totally hated. So it just kind of depends, really, on the day. But yeah, I love Friendship Friday. It's been great.
Okay. There is a question here. Ask her why the Rastifer is always the target for Friendship Friday shenanigans.
Okay, I'm not sure, Squid, why you would ask that, but I think it's because Latalis and I are such trolls, and Rastifer is such a straight man that he's just such an easy target to pick on, and he hates it when we sing songs, so we sing songs to him because it's just fun to mess with him, and sometimes he sometimes he just flat out mutes us for a while, and
Okay.
it's fun. It's great.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay. So you told me a bit about how watching Let's Plays got you interested in video editing and streaming. But what inspired you to take the plunge and really start streaming?
So, I had been considering it for a really long time, but not having the proper equipment, and I'm just a very nervous person in general, and so I think I kept myself back from streaming for a very long time by making excuses about it. Um, and it wasn't until I talked to a friend he's a pretty big streamer, pretty big YouTuber, and he kind of encouraged me to just do it anyway. and wasn't judgmental, wasn't like, "Oh, no, you don't have a nice gaming computer or a nice setup, you can't do this." He was super encouraging, and he was like, "Dude, I think they'd love you. Why don't you just try?" And I was like, "All right, fuck it, I'll try," you know? And so that's kind of why I just started digging into it because for a very long time, like prior to streaming, I tried doing let's plays and stuff, and that just kind of wasn't working out for me. And so I just kind of bit the bullet and decided to give it a try. And I'm really glad I did because I haven't looked back since. So
Okay. Um, I I did a bit of as I was doing research for the show. I came across some of your older videos on your YouTube, um, and there was one that you made a comment that stuck out to me, where you talk about you're putting together a live stream. You were waiting for some folks to come in and chat. I don't know if it was on Twitch, but you made a comment. You said, while we're waiting, I could pull out my guitar and play it for you all or something, but I'm too shy to do that.
oh,
And I think that a lot of people who find your stream today, certainly the Startropics folks who recently found you when you were playing that game, but people who come into your stream, now, they would be surprised to hear you say something like that. So how did you go from being too shy to play guitar on stream to what your stream is now, which seems very outgoing and welcoming and and not, I definitely wouldn't define as shy.
yeah. It's been a very long process over a number of years. Um, I've dealt with like horrible anxiety my entire life. And if you had asked me like 2, 3 years ago if I would get on a live stream and talk to people, I probably would have told you to go fly a kite or something because I it was very, very nerve-wracking for me to even start. And when I first started streaming, I used to like shake uncontrollably, and it was just like wild how terrified I was of it. But these days now, because I've been doing it for so long and I realize, everyone's, people are really, really cool and wholesome and sweet and awesome. It really kind of helped me come out and just be okay with streaming and doing what I love. Because honestly, I love streaming so much, and I think it's really helped me be a lot more social and just honest with myself. And because I think a lot of my fear stemmed from people judging me and not liking me, or just a myriad of different reasons why people would hate my stream. And these days, I don't feel the same way. I'm like, these people are awesome. I come here and we hang out, and I have a great time. And so a lot of that fear is just melted away for me in a big sense. And Squid Killer said, someone said in the chat, Zero said she played guitar on stream a few days ago. That's another thing is I still get nervous to play guitar on stream, but I am kind of slowly trying to make it like mellow coffee morning streams where we just hang out and I chat with everybody, and that kind of diffuses a lot of the tension for me at the very least.
Okay. Um, okay. Is that something that have you performed live in that way? Oh, you've sent me a challenge in chess.
Sorry.
No, that's good. That's good. I was thinking,
Yeah.
I've forgotten to send you a rematch request. But sorry,
You murdered me before I even noticed.
yeah. But
Uh,
the time I think gets people. I certainly wasn't used to playing with time before I started playing chess online. Um,
mhm.
yeah. Sorry. Is playing
Uh,
guitar, is that something you've done live? Is that something that you've done off stream, or is that really something that you've expanded as part of your stream?
yeah, so when I was younger, when I was in high school, I didn't used to sing at all, but I used to accompany people on piano and guitar, and I had a lot of like aspirations to maybe someday become a musician in some kind of way. Um, but I was always like so nervous. I had such bad stage fright that I never could do that. Um, so I played all the way up until I was about 21 years old, and then I stopped for a while. And I didn't end up picking it back up until I was about maybe like 25 years old. And so coming back to it has actually been very therapeutic for me because it's just really, I don't know, it's a good hobby to have, I think, um, because music is just great in general. So,
Absolutely. I definitely am also in the boat of people who played a lot of music earlier on, and now I have like,
mhm.
a guitar case and an amp downstairs that I haven't pulled out in a long time. And every time I see it, I think, hey, I should, pick that up. And it's then a couple months goes by, and then I see it again. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
it can be hard to stay motivated to continue playing and continue doing music, especially if it feels like you're not getting anywhere with it. Um, but now I view music more as like an actual genuine hobby because for writing, I loved writing, but writing is a job for me now, and I loved art, but art is a job for me now. And so really the only means of hobby that I have is playing music. So it's good to have that.
absolutely. So, the before we go on to talking a bit about your experience with art and other things sort of off stream. I did want to ask you another question about some of the elements of your stream that I consider fairly unique. And this ranges from some of your music and singing streams to you have a viewer point reward that requires you to go 30 minutes without using nouns, which I saw the other day, which was fantastic. So how do you keep your program fresh? How do you keep it interesting as you're going?
Yeah, so I definitely um the points reward thing that had never been redeemed before, and I was like, "Oh, of course he'd be here when I cannot say nouns for half an hour." Um, I definitely take inspiration by taking a little time off from my channel when I have downtime and watching other people's channels. And something that I've always kept in mind as a content creator in general is why do I watch the people that I watch? Why do I love the YouTubers and the streamers that I love? And I kind of try to put my finger on like what specifically those people do that make me interested in actually watching them because there's a lot of times when I watch streams where I just can't get into it or I can't, and it's not necessarily them, maybe it's just not for me. But thinking about like what kind of an audience do I want to build? What kind of a community do I want to have? Because I think when you see a lot of the bigger creators who have like a really successful platform, they tend to have a specific kind of audience and a specific kind of vibe that they bring to their channel. And so I'm always thinking about like, why do people watch me? Why do they want to be here? Um, and I really strive to make just like a fun place for people to come in. And we make fun of each other a lot in my stream, but it's all in like good fun. We poke fun at each other. And I like to think that people who come in who have never visited my stream before can come in and see like, oh, they're just, a fun bunch of people who, you know, just come in and shoot the breeze and have a good time. And, at the end of the day, like we watch some fun games, we watch Marsh fail a little bit, and then we have a good rest of our day. Keeping content fresh, I tend to try to switch out what I do not too often because I want people to know what they're coming in for, but I also want to sometimes throw in a music stream or throw in a just chatting so people can catch up with me. I think it's important if you want to build up your audience to sometimes just sit down with your viewers and chat about everything because sometimes people don't know you as a person or they don't know much about you other than watching you play games. And so it's good to let your audience in and let them see who you are from time to time. And I think that that helps. So, and I'm very candid about things like my mental health or about, how I'm feeling or goals that I have with the channel. Sometimes I'll say like, "Oh, I want to do this next month." And I try to let them know far in advance so that they can expect that. Because if you just randomly do something for the sake of it being different, you're going to confuse people, I think. But if they have something to look forward to, they'll say, hey, we know Marsh has a coffee music stream coming up next Thursday. Let's go hang out and watch it. So
Okay.
that's kind of the approach that I take anyway.
Okay. So that actually leads us to another another area that you had raised as something you'd like to chat about, which is mental health and mental health challenges, particularly anxiety and depression. Do you want to take a minute to talk about that? How, like, as a creator, how that impacts you, or?
Yeah. I think addressing mental health, I think society needs to address mental health so much more. I look at like my upbringing. So I was raised in a family where like you didn't talk about your problems. And if you did, you got told, oh, just suck it up, like, oh, just do better. Like, just, it's not a big deal. Like, just, and it is one of those things that like I was suffering from depression from a very young age and anxiety from a very young age. And I had no terminology for it. I didn't know what the problem was. I just thought maybe there was something wrong with me. And so it just really sucks to feel like your feelings and what you're going through are not valid. And that, oh, someone always has it worse than you. When I think of like the campfire in our community, I love to think that we're all there for each other. If somebody needs an ear or needs to talk about something going on in their lives, like I think that it's a safe place that people could come in and, um, say, hey, I need some help. I need to talk to somebody, not that that's a purpose of our community or anything, but I like to think that we are open enough and friendly enough to be able to do that kind of thing. That being said, as a content creator, sometimes it is incredibly difficult, because there's definitely times when, because I consider myself a very driven person, and I definitely know something's wrong with me when I'm not feeling as driven, or like I don't feel like accomplishing my goals and my dreams and stuff. And there's days when it's hard to even get out of bed and do my streams. Like it's very, very tough. It's very difficult. And I think that's the hugest thing about depression that makes me sad, is that it makes me feel like I don't want to accomplish anything. I don't want to do anything. Um, so yeah, that can be the hard part. Anxiety is rough too when you're a streamer, because sometimes you can get anxiety attacks just midstream. And I used to, it makes me very irritable. It makes me very I start like stumbling and fumbling through my words. And I've gotten to the point where I try to be very, very honest with my audience when I am experiencing something like an anxiety attack. Just so that they know, like, hey, guys, I'm sorry I have to cut the stream short. It sucks when I have to do that, but sometimes it's just so necessary. And I think it's necessary for people to just be honest with how they're feeling in general. So, yeah, in terms of like being a streamer, and advice that I could give is like, don't push yourselves. Like, if you need time for yourself, if you need time to regroup, that's okay. And like, no one's gonna hold it against you if you need to take care of yourself. So that's the best advice I can give.
Yeah, I mean, that's it's a big topic. I think that, I mean, you touched on a lot of things there that certainly resonate with me. I grew up in a household where there were certainly mental health issues at play. And we have a comment that there was a 90s mindset, talking about what you were saying about, just get past it, or don't talk about it, or what have you. Yeah, I mean, when I was growing up, it was like, yeah, I wouldn't even have known that you could talk about that kind of thing. I think that there's, I think it's commendable in your case to have a space where, it's not only a place for folks to come together and have a friendly place to be together, but also where, you're able to take care of each other in that way. I think that's special.
Yeah. I also think it's one of those things that our mindsets have shifted as we've gotten older. I definitely think people our age are much more aware of the importance of taking care of your mental health. And it's actually really encouraging because my mom did not take care of her mental health when she was younger. And, she raised three kids, on her own and, was a workaholic and all this stuff. But now that she's older, it's kind of neat seeing her, because she and I talk a lot about like mental health and, um, you know, that sort of thing. And it's really cool to see her like actually taking the steps that she needs to take care of her own mental health because she is a super tough lady. My mom is from the Philippines. She didn't have really a family, she is like tough as nails, honestly. And um, so I think her mentality was just, oh, I can just power through anything. I can do anything I set my mind on. But sometimes it's good to be vulnerable and it's good to say like, "Hey, I need some help." Like, I just need it.
Absolutely. And so
So,
you mentioned that you're a very driven person. Certainly, the things you've told me about yourself before we did the show definitely back that up, and the things I've seen on your podcast or on your Twitch channel indicate that you're very active in a lot of different ways. You have a degree in fine art and public administration. Do you
mhm.
want to talk a little bit about that right now?
Sure. It hasn't done much for me except for in the sense that like I can pursue a creative career, which wasn't necessarily the goal. I'm very proud of myself for getting a college degree. I was the first person in my family to actually graduate from college. Um, but the idea was that I was going to go to to grad school for urban and environmental planning. And um, I signed up for my GRE. I paid for my GRE. I got to the test room and I sat down, and something just didn't feel quite right about that. I felt like it's like, man, I don't think this is what I'm cut out to do. I don't know. I just had like a weird moment of like reflection right before the DRE started. So I was like, all right. I got up and I left. And I like to think that was the right choice because I think I've always known what I wanted to do since I was a child. I've always wanted to be a creative person, whether that was writing or art or like music or something to that extent. Um, and I was like, you know what? I feel like if I don't do this, I'm throwing away a huge part of myself. And I had a lot of, like, influences around me in my life being like, "Oh, you need to do this, you need to do that," like, do this with your life." But the only person who can do anything with your life is yourself at the end of the day. So, I just decided like, "Hey, this is what I'm gonna do." And it's been very scary and it's been very crazy, but I don't regret it in the slightest. Um, some days are really, really hard, but I'm very content with my decision to do that, so
Okay. And so I do have a question for you along the lines of that academic background though, because you
Mhm.
are an artist, and in my totally unrelated to my stream life, I'm actually really enthusiastic about public administration and
Mhm.
and government and that sort of thing. But
Yeah.
how do you see those things, the art world and the world of public administration interacting, or how should they interact? Which I think is probably gets more at the heart of the discussion.
Yeah, so, like I said, the idea behind the public administration and art was tied into urban and environmental planning. Generally, they suggest you have architecture rather than art, for environmental planning. Um, but when I went into getting my college degree, um I didn't exactly know 1,000% what I wanted to do with it until a little bit later on. And by that point, I had already had so many credits, and I was in a little bit of a rush to complete my degree. so that I could move across the country at the time. And so I, if I, it's kind of complicated actually, like thinking about that question, because um, I guess I wasn't thinking about them in relation to art, but how I would think about them in relation to art is perhaps like installing more art pieces in cities, or like public spaces for viewing art, or like instilling more programs for artistic endeavors, maybe as it pertains to youth or the public in general, getting people access to art and those sorts of things, I think is really important. And like on a bureaucratic level, you'd have to think about like how the funding would work for those things and who to get together and who to hire for those things. So I guess in that sense, that's kind of touching on the public administration sector of it. But as you know, with public administration, it's like tiers of different people that you need to communicate with, to get
Certainly.
things done within a city or within a county or anything like that. And I did really legitimately like, public administration, but when like conscientiously, I was thinking about like I'd rather be on the ground working. I'd rather be on the ground accomplishing, getting some things done, which is why I was going with the urban and environmental planning route, because it would have been much more like hands-on, I believe. So that was kind of the mentality with that. I'm sorry if that sounds kind of roundabout, but it's one of those things that like I didn't really expect to go to college in the first place. Um, and when I was there, it was kind of like, well, what do I want to do with my life? And just being very indecisive about all of that. So yeah.
Fair enough.
Long story short, MarshmlloDragon did not know what she wanted to do with her life.
Fair enough. Um, okay, so I have a couple other things I wanted to ask you about, and then we have a sort of new segment that we chatted about beforehand that we'll switch to. So probably after this game, but
Okay.
since this is a show that does feature us playing chess, I'd like to ask you a little bit about your history with the game. Is chess something that you've played a lot of? Is it something they're interested in? That sort of thing.
Yes, so as you can tell by my brilliant score on this app, I am basically a professional. I'm just going easy on you because, I didn't want to embarrass you on your own
I
channel.
appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Um, you're welcome. You're welcome. I'm doing the Lord's work out here. I've always really liked chess in theory. I've never been very good at it. Like, I think if I practiced much more, I'd be a lot better at it. But I think it's one of those games that I'm not very good at wrapping my head around. Um, and I think a big part of that too is because I can't get into the head of the person on the other side very well. I don't know what the other person's thinking. And so it can make it a little bit harder for me because I guess I never really had that many people to play with growing up either. And the people that I did have just destroyed me every time. So, but yeah, I mean, I've always enjoyed it. I've always wanted to collect really cool chessboards made out of like soapstone and stuff. And, there's a really cool Lord of the Rings one that has like metal pieces. And, but yeah, maybe I'll practice more. I actually started practicing more before you even asked me on the show, which is kind of an interesting stroke of luck. Um, but yeah, I'm working on getting better.
Interesting. It's interesting to hear that you've like been picking it up lately. What is maybe not just with chess, but in games of strategy in general? How do you approach them? Like
Mhm.
you said, you have a hard time wrapping your head around what the other person is doing, which in chess is, I think, a really critical component. But what is your approach
Mhm.
to strategy games?
Yeah, so people who view my channel know that I play quite a bit of Fire Emblem, here and there. And um, sorry, 1 second.
It's okay.
I see what you're doing. I'm picking up what you're putting down. Um, for things like Fire Emblem, I think it's a little different because you can utilize different units within the fields. You can choose which units you're bringing in with you. Versus chess, the units are set in place, set in stone. And yes, you can have like different styles of play, but I think taking into account landscape and territory makes a huge difference because in Fire Emblem you have walls, you have mountains, you have all sorts of like landscape things getting in the way to which you can use it to your advantage and saying like, oh, they can't cross this river, so I'm just going to shoot my archers at them or something like that. I am affectionately called Antwine Dani in the Fire Emblem community because of my absolutely stellar strats. My 10 IQ strats are fantastic to say the least.
Ant line Dani, as in you move your pieces in an ant line?
Wine. No. Ant wine, as in I'm drunk.
Oh, I see. I see. Okay. Fair
Because in
enough.
Fire Emblem 7, your character is a tactician. You're like telling them where to go, and Ant Wine Danny just goes, I don't know. I just work here. You figure this out.
Fair enough.
So, but I do really enjoy strategy games. I just have a hard time like keeping up with like stats and stuff and keeping track of everything that's going on the board and everything. But I do really enjoy strategy games, even if I'm not the best at them.
It is a bit of an aside, but what are your thoughts on the absolutely bonkers price of some of the Fire Emblem games? I know there's like a whole meme about one of them being hundreds of dollars just for the disc on GameCube, I think it is, but
yeah, it's probably I'm thinking that's probably Path of Radiance is the game that they're referring to, I'd assume. Um, I think that's absolutely wild, but I guess I'm not surprised because when it comes to purchasing games, because I don't like to play games on stream that I haven't owned or don't own. Um, and it's one of those things that like so I like to pick up copies of games, but yeah, they can go for outstanding prices. I think part of the reason why Path of Radiance has had such a resurgence lately is because the original game was released on the Switch recently. And I know that like that box set for the special set sold out in like seconds or something like that, something crazy like that. And um, so I think that there's been an interesting surge in the popularity of Fire Emblem in recent years, especially because when I was younger, nobody had heard about it. At least people that I talked to, like nobody knew what it was. So, and now it's kind of entered the public lexicon of games. So,
yeah. We have a question from a chatter who also doesn't like playing games that they don't own on stream, which is have you ever played shogi? I think I'm pronouncing that right, which is has striking similarities, they say, to tactical RPGs.
I have never played shogi. No,
I've never heard of it. So
tactical games that I have played are like Shining Force and Fire Emblem, as well as like a few others throughout the years. But yeah, and I have not played shogi.
okay, fair enough. The so I guess I think it's like a Japanese board game, they say. Oh, interesting. Okay. A few more questions here while we finish up this game. This gets into the world of just random things. So what would you say is something about you? And I know that you're pretty open. You chat a lot with your chat. You talk about your life off stream. What is something that would surprise your followers that they wouldn't know about you?
That's really tough. Um, that's a tough one. Let me think about this really quick. Uh, I think the vast majority, okay, not the vast majority, but I would say probably the things I watch on YouTube probably would surprise them because I watch a lot of videos about airplanes and about
Videos about
just
airplanes.
scientific topics. Yeah, and scientific topics, as well as one of my favorite, like, guilty pleasure YouTube channels is about a guy who runs a poultry farm, and he literally is, like, a super wholesome human being, but basically it's just, like, literally life on the farm. Like, I watch a lot of just different kinds of content on YouTube. I think that would be a little bit surprising. Um,
Sorry, sir,
what else?
back up a bit. What are videos about planes? Is it like the
Yeah,
history
just
of the
videos about
biplane,
airplanes.
or is it like
Oh,
here's a
well, like, different things.
747, here's
So,
a bolt on a 747, like what's a video
some
about
of them
planes?
are, like some of them are, like, plane crash, details of, like, why planes crashed or, like, what went wrong with them. Other ones are just, like, footage of people flying planes. Some of them are, like, details about different kinds of planes. Don't ask me, though, because I have a horrible memory, so I won't. There's also a YouTuber that I used to watch back a while back who he had uh, one of those portable airplanes, and I used to watch those videos a lot. Oh, yeah, the other thing I wanted to be when I was a kid, aside from a creative, was a pilot, so
Sorry.
there's that.
What's a portable airplane? Aren't all airplanes portable? Like by definition, it's a
No,
form
well,
of
not portable. I
transportation.
I was thinking, my brain is kind of zoning out at the moment, but it's one of those ones with the big fans in the back, and then you have the fin that's above your head, and parasail,
Oh, I was about to say, I think that's a
parasail.
helicopter. Okay.
Yeah, it's like a helicopter, but there's also, like, portable planes that are really small, and you can actually, like they're like one-person itty-bitty planes that you can also use as well.
Okay. We have a comment from
Um,
one of your followers. Airplanes is surprising. Wholesome farm videos, not so much.
I guess not. I guess not, Squid. I also another thing that my viewers might not know, which I think some of them do, but I did get a black belt when I was younger. I used to be in martial arts for a long time, and like kickboxing and all sorts of stuff like that. So I wasn't like traditionally sporty, but I did do stuff like long distance running when I was younger and martial arts. So
Sorry,
although I don't know how surprising that is to them.
which martial art?
So I did taekwondo, hapkido, and judo, and I did get a black belt in taekwondo, and I used to like fight competitively until I got hurt really bad one time, and then my mom was like, "You're not fighting anymore." But I also used to do what are called forms. So basically, it's just like it's a set of moves, like of fighting moves, and you do them in a formation. So basically, it's like it's performative more than anything. I used to really like doing those as well. But yeah, it's a fun fact about Marsh.
Um, I was never able to do enough of it to advance very far, maybe like a couple of years. But I did do a couple of years of worth of tests in Wing Chun Kung Fu.
Okay.
A few years ago.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, I moved away from where the school was, but it was really
Hmm.
enjoyable.
Nice.
So that's really cool. That's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I did martial arts from a very young age, and I honestly think it was a really good thing. I think it does teach a lot of good principles and it's good exercise obviously and it's good for like teamwork kind of building stuff, but they had a lot of like life lessons that they used to give about like perseverance and um you know, keep on trying even if you're failing, that kind of stuff. So, I think those were important lessons for me anyway.
I always really enjoy that in a martial arts school, you get together and your leader or your coach or whatever the title is like, yeah, keep going no matter what, you can do it. Now let's like kick each other for an hour.
Yeah, let me just beat the shit out of you right now.
Yeah, exactly. So
Gosh.
why don't we switch over to our new segment here, which I do not have a name for because I came up with it very recently. And it might be different depending on who's on the show. So I'm going to transition us here. It worked. Okay, it worked. Here we have a couple. So I have 2 images I've taken from your Discord, and then a third image that I thought would be fun to chat about. So the first one I have here, you're an artist, and I want to give people an opportunity to see sort of some of your work on stream. So we have this image first, which is why don't you tell us about it? I'll put them up, and you can tell us a little bit about them.
Yeah. Is actually a practice drawing that I did for some line art stuff. I was kind of going for like sci-fi bodysuit. I also like to put a lot of motion in some of my work, so I was like, oh, she'll be like falling, and that was basically it on that one. Although when I did post this one, I got a lot of interest in like maybe starting a Patreon where people can like print these out and color them in, and I was like, sure, that sounds fun.
Fair enough. Okay, I'll move on to the next one then.
Okay.
There's a lot going on in this one, so what can you tell us about it?
Yeah, so this is a painting that was requested from a client. And he saw another one of my underwater scenes, and he wanted something very similar, but he wanted the inclusion of, some cartoon characters and things, and his grandchildren live with him and stuff, so he was like, oh, I want something that I can like pass on to my children and my grandchildren. So there was some like Little Mermaid references in there, as well as like SpongeBob and Patrick were a requirement in there, so I had to like figure out how to fit those guys in. And
I'm only just noticing them now. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, there's some cartoon characters sprinkled throughout, but I wanted to kind of play with like the depth of light and like how the shadows and stuff kind of move as you go into the background. The swirling of the sardines was kind of a happy accident. And the light sources are all over the place on this painting, but I wanted to have that light kind of streaming down from them to kind of show how shadows work in the water and stuff like that. So I had a lot of fun with it. It took me a while because I was really busy with life things, but I'm happy that it finally got to its new home. And I wasn't like 1,000% happy with how it came out, but that just means I can execute those things in a future project.
Okay. Fair enough. And just before we move on to the last image we have here, I did want to remind folks if there's any other questions that they wanted to ask, if there's anything that they wanted to pose, then they're totally welcome to do so. Now, this one, you haven't seen. It's not from your Discord. It's something that's been going around. It's sort of a meme. I don't know how old it is, but it is something that I really enjoyed because no one on Twitch knows this, but I actually write a lot of poetry in meter. This person posted, a friend on Facebook posted about how Emily Dickinson used the common meter, and so her poems can be sung to the tune of the Pokemon theme song. Now, you play Pokemon on stream. You're a singer. Do you want to take a crack at this in the Pokemon theme tune?
Yes, but I need a second because I'm dyslexic, so I'm going to need a second to read it through.
Fair enough.
Before I sing it, so hold on a second.
Okay.
Okay. Because I could not stop for death, he kindly stopped for me. The carriage held but just ourselves in immortality. We slowly drove, he knew no haste, and I put it away. Messed that up, sorry. My labor and my leisure too, for his civility.
Pokemon.
Dickinson.
Awesome.
That's great. I love that.
Yeah,
I actually did not know that. That's amazing. I love that.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty great, and I appreciate you doing that as well.
Well, you're so welcome.
All right. Well, I'm just going to switch us back here.
Well, I didn't know you wrote poetry. Do you publish those anywhere?
Yes, but that's something I think I will. I'll talk a bit more about as in the future of the show. Okay. But yeah, absolutely. We do have one or two things here from chat before we wrap up. And this question is from Fizzy Flask, who was actually a guest on the show in the past, asking, what is your favorite game that you have streamed?
I would say I really loved streaming Chrono Trigger, which was the very first game that I ever streamed. I think a lot of the reason why I loved streaming it so very much was because that game had a huge impact on my childhood. And not only that, but all of the people who came in and watched felt the same exact way. So it was kind of like a magical moment in a sense, because it was exactly the quintessential thing that I wanted out of streaming, which was having a bunch of people coming around and watching one of their favorite games of all time and just like soaking in all of that like love and pure affection that we have for like a special game in our lives. And like we got to the end of that game and people were actually crying. So it was kind of amazing. And I mean, I've played a lot of games. I've streamed a lot of games since that I've absolutely loved. But it was just kind of special and kind of magical to like get to experience that with everybody. So I would have to say hands down that was my favorite streaming moment.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So before we wrap up, do you want to plug your Twitch or say again what folks can do if they want to explore more of your content, or what they can expect if they go to your channel?
Yeah, so definitely go visit me on Twitch down there. I think down there, whichever direction it is. We have just like a nice, chill, wholesome stream. I make art. I'm also a science fiction writer. Hopefully I can get some books going, but I'll let you guys know on Twitter, so if you follow me, you'll know when things are getting published. But yeah, other than that, I don't really have a whole lot to say other than thanks for having me on, and it was great. Thank you.
Thank you for being on the show. And with that, I guess we will wrap up this episode of the Excessive Chatter Show. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow and subscribe at twitch.tv/Zericc or at Zericc on YouTube. If you would like to discuss the show or have any suggestions for future guests, questions, or features, please join the Zericc Discord. There are links for all of these things in the video description and on our Twitch page. And with that, we will say thanks for folks for stopping by, and have a good day.